So maybe you're feeling a little bit distracted with everything going on, or maybe even a little overwhelmed or a lot overwhelmed about everything that's on your plate, and maybe not even enough time to figure out and gain clarity and course correct to plan for a year that's a little bit different, a year that you're really excited about and you feel a little bit more in control of. So if you're feeling that way, you are 100% not alone. And that's the good news, but the not so good news is that it's not sustainable. And we want to make sure that the coming year is a little different so you can really access the best version of yourself. And so you can put all the good things that you're putting into the world and keep doing it in a sustainable way. And this is the absolute perfect time to do it right now, to have a course correction. And I'm going to share a couple strategies to do that won't take a lot of time, but it will take you, maybe to think in a little bit different way. Now, consider this. If goal setting, especially towards the end of the year, it's not just about projections and earnings and initiatives and how to influence leadership and the impact that you're going to have at work. That is so important. And of course, we've been talking about that all year long, so I don't want to take away from the importance. But as we're planning the end of the year and as we're trying to craft a year coming up that we are proud of, but that we can also sustain and be full of joy and happiness as we move through it, then we want to make sure that it is on our terms. And so here's the thing. Before we start thinking about career goals, we want to start thinking about lifestyle goals. That is the pre-planning that's so important to do this time of year. Now, what lifestyle goals are how do you want to feel? In other words, how do you want your days to look? How do you want your weeks to look? What about your year? In other words, when are you going to take breaks, and how do you want to recharge in those breaks? You might think also about your lifestyle in terms of how do you take care of your personal wellness? Do you want to have, a half an hour in the morning to do some movement? Do you want to make sure that you have 30 minutes at least in the middle of the day for lunch? Do you want to connect with a certain amount of friends every week? What about the time that you spend with your family? Those type of things. And I'm going to provide some prompts. There are some prompts in the copy to help you start thinking about what are these lifestyle goals do I want to have, and not just what are the goals and the things that I want to do, but also how do I want to feel. That is so important. So it might be every morning I want to feel calm and in control, and you can reverse engineer how to make that work. Every year I want to feel rested and recharged, twice a year, and this is how I'm going to do it on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, and that type of thing. So planning your lifestyle goals and how you want to feel is incredibly important. And so we want to make sure that we've heard about the Great Resignation. We don't want you to resign. We want you to redesign. Okay, so there are going to be some tools on how to do that. Now, the first one is creating a long-term vision. Now, if you're an Olympian, Olympians create very vivid and visceral long-term ambitions. In other words, for someone that wants to be in the Olympics the next 10 to 15 years, she really knows how it's going to feel to run the race, how it's going to feel when the medal gets placed over her head and the weight of the ribbon on the back of her neck. She knows, she's very vivid and visceral about these things. And you might be saying, well, I'm not an Olympian, I am not training for the Olympics. But you know what? The life that you want to have, how you want to feel, and what you want to accomplish in your career is your Olympics. And you can use these very same tools, because a lot of times the default that most people do that aren't aware of some of these things is they catastrophize. I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so exhausted, and they don't really see a way out. And so this is one way that you can start to see a way out, and also to create a long-term vision. And what it is it's really a personal manifesto. Now, again, there's going to be some prompts in the copy here that it might be good to have a cup of coffee or tea, or if it's later in the day, a glass of wine, whatever works for you, and start filling out some of these prompts and create what's called a personal manifesto. And then I encourage you to share it, to socialize it, because the more that you hear it, the more that you hear your words, you pay attention to your voice more than any other voice in the world. The reason why is because you've been hearing it the longest. So you want to be really mindful about what you're saying and how positive it is. And when you create your personal manifesto, rather than saying, I'm exhausted, this is hard, and it might very well be, but we want to start shifting the voice that we hear and being like, I'm so excited because I'm getting this thing in place, and start talking about your personal manifesto once you write it out. And again, socialize it, because socialize it, of course, with someone that you really trust, someone that is going to encourage you, because that can really solidify it in your mind, to start with the end in mind and start working it backwards. Now, speaking about that way, starting with the end in mind, your long-term vision in your personal manifesto, that is starting with the end in mind, right? That is a vision. That is an ideal for the year ahead. But then you also want to come back to having your short-term ambitions. These are the little rocks that you do one after the other after the other. These are the things that you have control over, that you can be consistent with. And so you want to make sure that you really have your long-term ambition, your personal manifesto, and then you have your short-term ambition and your intentions in place. And those can be something as small as, every morning I get up 15 minutes early and I do a 5-minute meditation. Or if you're not into that, I take 10 deep breaths and I do a little bit of movement. I call 3 friends a week, or 1 friend a week, and I make sure that I connect with 1 family member. It's just those little small things that once you understand your personal manifesto, and again, a lot of these prompts are in the copy of this newsletter or blog or however you're reading it. But once you have that in place, you can look and reverse engineer it, see what's most important to you, and start planning those things into your day. And again, it's not just the things that you do, but it's how you want to feel. Okay. And it's also planning in strategy time, if that's important to you, and thinking about where can I start slotting that in. So your short-term ambitions are the small actionable steps to start making your long-term ambition and your personal manifesto happen. And so I hope that makes sense to you. My book can help with that, Zoned In, the mental toughness required for world-class you. And of course, stay tuned, because we'll be doing some free live community events in the new year. If you would like some help and guidance to help you figure out your personal manifesto, as well as your short-term ambitions, and helping you with this course correction. So instead of thinking about resigning, you're going to focus on redesigning, so you can have the biggest impact possible, but also feel really amazing, grounded, confidence, and full of joy doing it. I look forward to seeing you next time.